Hello subscribers and non-subscribers, and welcome back to Let's Play Victoria 2. So in this part we are going to be effectively doing our final preparations for a war against some combination of the UK, France, and Russia. I say some combination because exactly what group of them we end up fighting is entirely dependent upon exactly how the war will begin. So let me go ahead and get my timer started. And let's begin. Okay. You gotta raise taxes on the poor a little bit. Let's improve Scandinavia's opinion of us just a little. The reality is I don't care that much about Morocco, or not Morocco, Montenegro, and I don't really care actually that much about Two Sicilies either. I am allied with them, right? Yes, I am. Not that they're a particularly useful ally, but I am allied with them, technically speaking. Let's go and grab Cambodia. I think that's going to be it. Make sure we are running on at least 3 speed. So, depending on whether or not we get the event, when I was yesterday just doing a test save or a test run based off the save I made at the end of last part, I ended up getting a event that gave me a place in the Sun CB against the UK, so I used that to declare war for British Malaya. Of course, the UK and Russia being allies resulted in me needing to fight the Russians as well. So I took these 2 territories off of Russia, just so I have a somewhat more straight border with them. It makes it a little easier to defend. I think it also actually results in me not needing as many armies on this border. Almost immediately after that war started, France declared war on me for Alsace. Of course, they lost that, but I didn't take anything off of them because I was saving my infamy for taking... No, China, I don't want to be allies with you. Taking those 2 territories off Russia and forcing the UK to liberate Ireland, which was kind of fun. The war took a little longer than I would have liked, if I'm being completely honest. 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to attribute that to my allies kind of failing to hold the Eastern Front. After I had secured it, I thought, okay, I'm in a good enough position. I don't need to really worry about this. I can focus my attention on the British Isles. Nope. My main allies, Netherlands and Belgium and Bulgaria, ended up losing a bunch of the stuff they had down in that area. A little surprising that the Ottomans are apparently going to be declaring war on Ethiopia. If I was at least friendly with Ethiopia, I would attempt to join them, or be in a position to be able to join them, but the US likely would not let me get to friendly relations with them, so that's not going to happen. I would also love to take over Cacao. Do I really want to invade Liberia? The reality is, it's not particularly useful It's way out over here on the western, or excuse me, yeah, western coast of Africa. It borders a French colony, a massive French colony, and a smaller British colony. So they're on their own if I get into a war with either of those two powers, which we most certainly will in the near future, either because of a crisis war, an event giving me something to declare war on either of the three, or me just saying I'm sick of waiting and starting the war. I don't really care to go after Liberia. I just don't think it's worth it. So we'll let Iberia be, or not Liberia. I don't know why I kept saying Iberia. We'll let Liberia be. They can exist as a tiny communist proletarian dictatorship in Africa. The fact that they will survive at all is surprising, to say the least. Because that's what ended up happening in my test run. Liberia also kept offering me alliance requests, and I kept turning them down because I don't care to be allied with a proletarian dictatorship in Africa. Mostly because that just doesn't really benefit me in any real way, so why would I bother? Okay, there we go. We have surpassed the Russians. I think they might have actually gotten rid of some. Oh, well, no, I'm at 866. I don't know why I thought I was a little bit higher than that. I thought I was like at 896, but no, it's 866. I read it wrong. So no, we just ended up surpassing them because of the... No, China, I do not want to be your friend. Okay, so this would have resulted in an ability to get that war with France and the UK, which isn't actually all that bad, all things considered. And no, China, I do not want to be your friend, because what will happen is Japan or Russia will want to take more land off of you. If I'm allied with China, that means I either have to side with China, break my alliance with China anyway, to let Japan have their war without needing to worry about me potentially getting involved on China's side. Now, if it was a unified China, I might be more inclined to support them, but it's not a unified China, so I don't care for an alliance with them. It doesn't really do me any good. So, yeah, we're just not going to bother with that. Let's upgrade the infrastructure of our spherelings. At least the ones that we can. Which that would appear to be all of them. Yeah, that would be everybody. At least everybody that matters. Now, I would love to get Cambodia, but yeah, you still... I don't think the Panama Canal is going to get built unless somebody goes to war with Colombia to liberate Panama. Or conquer Panama. One of the two. Whichever one they decide is the better route to go. Oh no, France, I'm not going to let you walk through my borders. I'll let the Ethiopians do it, but they won't be able to do anything anyway. But nonetheless, I'm more inclined to let them do it. Wow. Conservatives gained 1% of the upper house. That's actually quite a bit. Typically, you're getting less than 1% changes for each party. So that is a little surprising. Okay, February 19th, I will be able to create a protectorate over here. Wonderful. Let's build it up. Add Cambodia to our sphere. Russia's actually not doing so hot that they're all the way down to 6th. Granted, they do have about double the total score of Scandinavia, but that does indicate that Scandinavia, and we were the first to the North Pole. I was about to say South Pole for some reason. So our intrepid explorers have been the first to raise a flag of the North Pole and have brought glory and prestige to our great country. A glorious day for science in our nation. 105 prestige that I don't really need, but I'll take it anyway. And our athletes were also victorious at the Olympic Games. Wow, being number 1 really does result in you winning everything. I don't actually know if being the number 1 great power has any effect on these events, but yeah, my experience so far when I've run off-screen tests based off of saves from this Let's Play is that when I've been number 1, I've pretty much always managed to get that first country to plant a flag at the North Pole. So yes, I'm kind of inclined to think you got to be number 1 for that, but it could just be luck of the draw with various factors such as military power, industrial power, prestige, naval research having an effect. I don't actually know. All I know is it kind of feels like I get that every single time that I've been number 1. But again, for all I know, that could be other factors influencing it. I just quite simply don't really know enough about it. I am going to go ahead and get ad hoc money bill printing just for the inventions for some extra tax efficiency, because to be honest, while we're making money right now, technically speaking, and I think even overall on a monthly basis we make money, it's not as good as it could be, and I'd kind of like to be able to lower taxes if I could. Now let's go ahead and do a little bit more fun with this. So I think we already have somebody wherever Munich is. I thought we did. Oh yes, we do. I think it's a soldier right now. No. Okay, yes it is. There we go. That's what I thought. So we already have some guy where Sopron is. Down here somewhere. There he is. So I'm going to actually swap out the soldier here in Bayern, where Munich is, for party loyalty towards conservative. And then we'll have Sachsen, or however it's pronounced, go and move over to a soldier as well. We kind of got to keep pumping those numbers up for conservatives just to make sure that we keep winning the upper house. I did have one election that ended up going to the or a coalition of the liberal and anarcho-liberal parties when I was doing that test run yesterday, and I don't really want that to happen again if I can avoid it, so we're gonna do what we can to avoid that. Okay, just double checking that all of my naval bases are either already fully upgraded or have been at least queued up to be fully upgraded. Wonderful. So Venice, time to start building that second navy. First things first, replace all of these crappy clipper transports in the second, well, technically first navy. Well, technically it's the Austrian Imperial Navy. We're going to build 40 of them. You might be wondering why 40. That allows me to transport 2 armies per. I think I might have mentioned that when I mentioned building 40 for the first fleet up here, which I'm also going to actually change the name of. This will be the German Imperial Navy. So we have an Austrian Imperial Navy and a German Imperial Navy. One's kind of showing its age, technically speaking. Okay, here's the election. This was the one that went to the Liberals, which I'm going to try and avoid because I don't really want that. Let's get the better artillery now. You know what, I'm gonna go ahead and move some of these guys over. Just because it's kind of annoying me how long that's taking, just so that I get them done in parallel. So we may not be starting that war, this part, but it should be starting, if not this part, the next. There goes China attempting to restore order in the Yunnan provinces, so China is now slowly attempting to unite. It's a little late for them to have any real effect, or at least as much of an effect as I would have liked. Gotta go for the moralism there. And also China probably won't succeed, to be completely honest. Okay, apparently the anarcho-liberals have decided to start a revolution, just so that, you know, they lose a bunch of their party membership, because, you know, kind of hard to have dead people vote. Although I suppose it might be a little bit easier in this time frame. No, just go there and then take the fastest route back. Anything down here? Technically, yes. A bunch of Austrian anarcho-liberals popped up in my satellite's territory because reasons, I guess. My satellite can take care of that, though, for me. And the Ottomans did indeed end up taking land off of Ethiopia. So we're very close with the Liberal Party here. However, so long as we can get a coalition of the conservative and reactionary parties, we should be able to, in theory, win the upper house with relative ease. And again, it does help that these idiots apparently decided to stage a uprising of the anarcho-liberals, so that's going to be a number of them gone come this election. Something about the third wave, which is a fascist thing, so I'm going to have to deal with potentially some more fascists. Gained almost another 1% in the upper house. Japan fears our might. There's literally no reason for them to fear our might. We're going to go for we're patriots and we're going to fight for our country because we want jingoism, because that's something that the Conservative Party likes. It's, of course, also annoyingly something that one of the liberal parties likes. So that's sort of going to also help out the liberals. So, yeah. Not exactly something we're looking for there. Wonderful, and let's queue up some more armies, because you can never have too many armies. There's literally no such thing. Particularly when you're playing a paradox game, there's literally no such thing as too many armies. Only ever too few. So we'll just let that run. That'll get us another army. That'll ensure that the Russians can't get through. Of course, by the time the war starts, damn it, they ended up winning. Okay, just switch over to Conservative Party. I believe, again, that increases a little bit of your militancy, but not a whole lot. I now also need to redo my taxes, because the Liberal Party's winning caps out at 50% taxes, which is not good enough to fund all of our developments. Of course, we could fund more if I didn't go and subsidize all of my factories, but I do, because I literally have no reason not to. We're going to have about a month or two of much increased cash flow, just as a result of the temporary shift in all of our budgeting expenses. Ooh, Belgium actually already broke their alliance with France finally. Wonderful. Oh yes, Cambodia. You do not want an alliance because of infamy, distance, and then just general base reluctance. Well, I think we can fix the opinion issue. China is not going to be uniting in this campaign. I'm going to tell you all that right now. I do believe I have... Do I? I think I might have China listed as one of the options for our next CK2 Let's... Or not CK2, Victoria 2 Let's Play. I do have a link down in the description to that poll. Asks you just what country would like to see me play as, and you got a string of options: Russia, Two Sicilies, Ottomans, I think Persia's on there, Japan, Brazil. I think Spain's on there, and maybe Sweden as well. I don't exactly recall off the top of my head who all the options are, but I think that's all of them. Not that it's particularly relevant, if I remember. Just important that if you wish to have a... just go and check it out, and if you care for any of those countries in particular, you can go ahead and vote, and whichever one gets the most votes is the one that will play as for the next Vicky 2 Let's Play. And has it... still nobody has managed to get the Ottomans, although the Scandinavians are very close to getting the Ottomans in their sphere. So we'll probably be seeing that happening. I think the Great War is probably going to happen next part. At some point next part. Either fairly early on, or it'll happen like right at the very end of the part. I'm not quite sure. Let's get Army NCO training for that up to military tactics, because I think we are behind technically compared to many other countries. Well, not the Russians. Yeah, the UK is at 125, France is still at only 100. We've got a couple of Russian communists rising up. That's not enough to really overthrow the Russian military, although the Russians will inevitably end up losing a bunch of... Well, I guess it depends on how the Great War goes. If Japan does their damn job properly, Russia could end up flipping to the Soviet Union after the Great War is over. Because the Great War capitulation forces you to destroy your entire military, and I think might also set a limit on your military spending, which of course influences the number of soldiers you can have, because the number of soldiers you can have is dependent upon the number of people that are of that pop type. Oof, geez, almost gained 3% fascists. Well, the fascists aren't going to generally vote alongside the conservative and reactionary members, so that's well, actually, no, I think that helps us. And Scandinavia wants an alliance with me. And the reality is, an alliance with Scandinavia is actually not a bad idea for a number of reasons. We can run these down. One, they're less likely to declare declare war on me for Schleswig-Holstein, which means this army that I have pretty much permanently stationed up here, I can move down to Russia or down into the Balkans, which are much more useful locations for it to be. They're a potentially very useful ally for at least distracting the Russians. They're not exactly going to be useful in the war beyond simple distraction. Russia will have to take some of these troops that are stationed over here on the Western Front, or on their Western Front rather, and move them up to the Northwestern Front with Scandinavia. And they also can potentially help me a little bit with the naval power of the Baltics region. Particularly if they can manage to lock down the Gulf of Riga, it'll make sieging down this part of the Balkans, or Baltics rather, much easier. So yeah, we're going to take that alliance with Scandinavia. Of course, I know what's going to end up happening is we know the Russians, or not the Russians, the Ottomans have or at least got caught attempting to declare war on Sokoto, which is in Scandinavia's sphere of influence. Although, because Scandinavia doesn't have an alliance, it's not going to affect anything, because I don't think Scandinavia can get brought in. Well, actually, no, they probably can if they go with the status quo, yeah. And then Scandinavia should then become the leader of that war and potentially could call me in, which will get me a war with France and the UK, which is fine. I don't need the war with Russia immediately. I can take care of that later. Outfit an expedition to go across Antarctica. Also, I don't know why it shows a ship of sail there. We're probably not going to use a sail ship there for a number of reasons. Oh, you also finished, so let's go ahead and get you started on your cruisers. So get rid of the commerce raiders and the frigates. Those are absolutely worthless and completely out of date. Admittedly, they're probably still good enough to deal with most of our Mediterranean enemies, but again, they're also out of date, so let's not. So 30 of those, and then we'll do 10 of the dreadnoughts, but we will wait to do the dreadnoughts last because they will take the longest amount of time, and I would like to have as many fully built up naval bases as I can. We can now do gas attacks. Sokoto wants to walk through my land. I don't know exactly how they expect that to work, but so be it. We shall see if Scandinavia joins Sokoto at all. They may not. They may choose to tell Sokoto that they're on their own. You know what, actually? Well, no, I can't get an alliance. Well, no. I could technically get an alliance with Italy, but they have to be the one to offer it, which means I just need to get them to like me enough to choose to offer it to me. The reality is they need to feel threatened by somebody. Scandinavia does it because they feel threatened by Russia and they figure that I can help them with Russia. Italy has to feel threatened by somebody. Likely France is the only real option there. But I'm also a major threat to Italy, of course, as well. Of course, if they get an alliance with me, then they don't have to worry about me. So, you know, if Italy was smart, they would attempt to get an alliance with me. That's what I would be doing if I was Italy right now, is I would say, you know what, I don't need Venice and Lombardy. I can live without that stuff. Let's try and get our militancy down a little, because it's a little high. That's a big uprising of Jacobin rebels. Are you gonna take care of that for me, Matra? Yes, you are. Wonderful. You were just a little on the slow side there. Had me a little worried that you maybe weren't gonna take care of that for me. Oh, Jesus, what is it now? Austrian communists. Oh. Damn communists, seriously. Take care of this. There's my timer. Let me shut that off before it gets too loud. Wonderful. Let's go ahead and research weapons platforms. This will make our navies a little bit better, but mainly I just want it for the decreased build time because, yeah, that could take a while. Cruisers are quite a while to build, and dreadnoughts are even longer. Of course, I'm not attempting to do anything bad somewhere. I don't know where you're talking about. I really don't know where you're talking about. Oh, here. Who is this? Transylvanian Liberation Movement. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen Transylvania Liberation Movement rise up. So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. Also, the British have a tiny navy, I want to note. The reality is, I can deal with the British alone. Because it has to be fairly spread. It's either very concentrated here in Europe, in which case it's not doing any good to any potential invasions down here, either in Africa or India or out over in the Americas. So, yeah. What the hell? Yeah, the UK needs to build up their navy. It's tiny. I don't need my allies to deal with the British Navy. It's helpful, certainly, don't get me wrong, but they're definitely not required. As we can clearly see, I have 132 ships and I haven't yet finished rebuilding the Austrian Imperial Navy. Well, they only have 75 ships, period. And many of those could easily be transports. I saw 75 right there, actually, so yeah, they have their entire navy situated in Chelmsford, I think it was, is where I was seeing it. Though it might be here in Ipswich. I wasn't really paying that much attention as the navy went by. Nope, it is indeed in Chelmsford. Let's actually get infiltration, because yeah, this is tech that could help us out quite a bit as well. I will end this part once we finish rebuilding, or not rebuilding, but building this other army, which is another 2 months or so. You guys all get a bit of a longer part. Also, it is interesting that the French have managed to technically overtake the Russians for military. And I can see why. They have a much larger navy. They have 640 points from capital ships. So the French have a lot of capital ships, with probably a bunch of transports as well, but probably very few light ships. So probably not a lot of cruisers, probably lots of battleships and dreadnoughts, and then, like I said, some transports. I think that said there was like 100 and some odd ships there. Holy crap. Okay, so they appear to be concentrated very heavily in a single fleet. Yep, 110 ships, and actually... okay, and the game does do this nicely. It doesn't do the weird crap that happens with the armies if you hover over them. It gives you cavalry, infantry, artillery on armies. Luckily, navies are smart and they are heavy, light, or, well, capital light transports. So they have 39 capital ships in their first fleet, 29 light ships, and 42 transports in that navy right there. And there are 2 other ships somewhere else that are unaccounted for. Don't really plan to declare war on the Zulu for a number of reasons. Mostly, I just don't care to sail down to South Africa. Some things should be forgotten. Let's try and get the militancy down, and voila, we have... I think this is about as many armies as we're going to be building at this point, because really any more we build is just for the hell of it. This covers pretty much all our fronts. The reality is I probably don't need 4 armies on the Italian border. Probably not going to get invaded by the Italians anytime soon. They fear me enough, and they don't have any real allies that they could call in. Because if they declare the war on me, Scandinavia will prefer to back me over them. And Bulgaria will be able to, well, Bulgaria and Greece, though more so Bulgaria. Greece doesn't really have an army yet. They have completely failed to rebuild it. Bulgaria can kind of help deal with the Ottomans. I just have to keep the Russians off their back. And then, yeah, like I said, Bulgaria can deal with the Ottomans for me. 4 armies to invade France with, that's good enough. I mean, there's a 72k stack over there of Belgians, an 84 stack of Dutch. There's some odd number of extra troops as well from the Scandinavians that could invade from Finland, or invade Russia through Finland, and apparently Russia has no troops up here at all. Can't say I fault them though. 13.5 supply limit. Yeah, I can understand not keeping an army stationed up there permanently, considering that a lot of their armies are 30k, 68k, 33. There's a 15 up there that can kind of survive. There's a 69k down there. And I can't see over here, but they probably have some troops over here as well along Manchuria. Actually, they probably don't. When I've played as Japan, Russia typically leaves their entire eastern front undefended. They mostly seem to rely on being able to quickly move troops from the west to the east. But the reality is they can't move very quickly. They have completely failed to build any real infrastructure for the most part. Unless they built it in a straight line, and so they don't have large interconnecting areas like we do. I actually don't know what the deal is with Russia. Japan could easily invade Russia, take a whole bunch of crap early on, while Russia's still needing to figure stuff out, and then I could declare war on Russia and take a whole bunch of crap, and then they're split. And if I call in Scandinavia, they're split even further. And then you've also got Persia down here, who could also help to split Russia. Wow, yeah, Russia does not have the troops necessary to deal with such a large number of potential invasion points. And if I could somehow magically get the Ottomans on my side, that'll never happen, but if by some miracle it was possible, that's another opening for an invading Russia. I mean, it's the same one as Persia has, but it's still helpful, actually. It really would be. So, yeah, Russia does not have the troops necessary. They really have to rely on help from the French and British to ensure that they don't get completely destroyed. And the reality is, if you declare the war on France, Britain's not going to help. And I can very easily deal with France and Russia alone. I can deal with the British as well. I did it before. in that test run as well. A number of test runs, in fact, so it's very much possible. And if I have a support, yeah, I'm already sort of planning out how this all works. I just need to know who to declare war on, because Russia gets me all three. But I'd rather not declare the war on Russia directly. For just the simple reason that I don't mind declaring war on Russia directly, if push comes to shove. I just don't want to have to fabricate it or justify a war myself. I'd rather the game give me a CB to do it. That'll make life a hell of a lot easier. So I'm really hoping the game is nice enough to give me an event that gives me a CB, even if it's against the British, like it did in that test run that I did last night. That's fine with me, gets the job done. And it could easily set me up for a second attack on the British as well later down the line if I felt so inclined. Especially if I were to transfer this over to like Hoi 4. Oh wow, yeah, oof. You don't want to have this running in Hoi 4, I can tell you that right now, because it's definitely not going to be a fair fight with the rest of these guys. But that's going to be it for this part. I will see you all next time. Quick reminder, I do have a Patreon, link to that down in the description below if you wish to go ahead and become a patron. That helps the channel out, even if it's for as little as $1 a month. I also have a link down there to my Discord if you wish to join. It's not super active. That's mostly just because there's not a whole lot of people in there realistically anyway. But it's there to help allow mostly for you to be able to be kept up to date on channel happenings more so than anything else. But yeah, so that's it. I also believe I have some affiliate links down in the description as well to pick up Victoria 2 if you wish to go ahead and do so. Like I've said before, it's a very enjoyable game. It's a little rough around the edges. While this series isn't necessarily a tutorial, and I'm not exactly the best at the game anyway, it might allow you to sort of see areas where I've screwed up, and I've admitted to screwing up numerous times. I tried to accomplish both of the main routes at the wiki for the two strategies that the wiki lays out for Austria, one of which is forming Großdeutschland, the other is forming a Habsburg imperial empire in Africa, or colonial empire rather, in Africa. I tried to sort of do both. That completely screwed up my plans, as well as me just not quite, not necessarily exploiting or really even abusing the system, but I can't really think of a better way to describe it other than abusing the system. Of just occupying entire countries and just leaving them occupied for an extended period of times rather than just getting into a war, taking what I want and getting out, which is my usual strategy for most games. I don't generally try and stay in a war longer than I have to. But clearly with Vicky 2, that's not really the strategy you want to go with unless the tides start to turn and you realize that and you say, okay, I got to get out while things are still in my favor. But yeah, so like I said, that'll be it for this part. I will see you all next time. But until then, goodbye and farewell.